For today, our notes are on solving multi-step inequalities. And I know on these notes here, there's a lot on the topic of interval notation. We're actually not even going to be going over that section for interval notation. So you can just kind of ignore that whole entire interval notation, as well as all these little symbols here. Go ahead and cross that off because we're not going to go over interval notation. You don't need to do that for this class. But for solving multi-step inequalities, whoops. This is not going to fit there. Multi-step inequalities. You're going to solve these very similar to equations. Okay, so it's pretty much combining what we did last week, the adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, and then just graphing it. Okay, so let's go through. I'm not going to do all of these because I want to give you guys opportunities to try them on your own if you wanted to afterwards, and then to check your work. So I'm going to go through and do the even numbers. There's 2 whole pages, and we can just go through the even numbers together. And then if you need more practice, you can go back and try the odd numbers. But your directions for this, it says directions: solve, graph, and write the solution to each inequality in interval notation. Remember, you're not going to be doing the interval notation part. We're just skipping over that. And I'm starting with number 2. Whoops. Number 2, if it wants to work. Hopefully my pen doesn't die. It was being weird yesterday. Uh-oh. Okay. I think my pen might be dying. All right. So if you want, you can cross off the interval notation for all that bottom section there, or if you're copying it down on regular paper, don't copy down the interval notation. So starting off with number 2 here. Our goal is we want to get the variable x all by itself in order for us to graph and to get our solution. It's just like solving an equation. So it's pretty much like we're trying to get our variable x all by itself. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is get rid of these parentheses. So what we're going to do to get rid of the parentheses is first let's distribute the number that's in front of the parentheses. And for this one, it's not just 3, it's actually a -3. So if it helps, you can even circle the number that's in front, and we're going to distribute that -3. And when you distribute, you are going to multiply. So let's go ahead and multiply. -3 times x is just -3x. And then our next jump, the one that's further away, -3 times +2. We have a negative times a positive, which is a negative, and then 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, I'm just going to copy down everything else, bring down the x, bring down the inequality sign, and the 4. Okay, so all we did was distribute. Okay, so let's multiply. All right, so our next thing here, we have a variable in 2 different spots. The next thing we want to do is combine like terms. It helps if you circle them so you can see the sign and front and the number. So our first term, that's just x. Let's put our invisible 1 in front of it. So it's a 1x minus 3x. And if it helps, you can write it on the side, 1x minus 3x. And when you're doing this, you really only need to focus on the number. So if it helps, you could even go one step further and just write 1. Whoops. You could just write 1 minus 3. Okay, so we need to know what is 1 minus 3. Well, 1 minus 3 is -2. Okay, so when we combine the 1x minus 3x, we get a -2, and then you don't forget that x. You just put the x right next to it. So that was combine like terms. And then just copy down the rest. -6 greater than 4. So all we do is combine. Now we've got 2 more steps here. Next is adding or subtracting. We're going to get rid of that -6. So I'll do the opposite. Add 6 to both sides so they cancel out. Bring down the -2x, my inequality sign. Whoops, that's going crazy today. And then we can add together. The 4 plus 6 is 10. So this time we're adding. And then our last one, you can read that -2x. You read that as -2 times x. So let's do the opposite. and divide by -2. So we're dividing. So those cancel out. Here's my variable x. And remember, there is a golden rule for multiplying and dividing with inequalities. What should we do with the sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number? Do you remember? What should I do with the sign? Flip it. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and flip our sign because we're dividing by a negative number. So I flipped my sign, and then we can finish our division. We have, whoops. It is a positive divided by a negative. Positive divided by a negative is negative. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So x is less than -5. That would be your final answer. And then all you have to do is just graph it. So let's quickly go ahead and go through that. And on this number line, there's a bunch of little ticks on there. I only really want you to write down the super important number. And for this one, it's a -5. You can just put that in the middle there. And then we're going to do our dot and our shading. Okay, so for this one, here's our symbol. It's the less than symbol. We've got less ink for the sign, so less ink for the dot, open dot on -5. And then you turn it into an arrow. It's pointing to the left. Shade everything into the left, nice and bold so I can see. Or you can do the up and over there. Okay. So what I was saying, all I need is the -5 on the number line. I don't need the numbers before or after because the most important part here is that you know how to figure out what kind of dot and which way is your shading, okay? I know you guys know how to number lines. That's not my concern right now. Okay, so how do you feel about that so far? I know we had someone join late, but that's okay. We're going to go through a couple more. We just did one problem so far. Let's keep on going. Unless if you have any questions. I see someone's typing, but I'm going to go ahead and say the next one that we're going to be doing here is number 4. Okay, so the next one we're doing here is number 4. We're solving this one very similarly. I'll leave it zoomed out if that helps. So we can also check on number 2. So we're doing number 4 now. First thing you want to do is get rid of the parentheses. How can I get rid of the parentheses in number 4? What should I do first? It starts with a D. I see someone typing. Distribute. Perfect. So let's go ahead and distribute. We're going to distribute the number that's in front of the parentheses. And for this one, it's a -8. And when we distribute, what operation do we use? Do we add, subtract, multiply, or divide the information? What should I do with that information? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? And we're going to multiply. Perfect. So let's go ahead and multiply. Our first jump, -8 times x is -8x. And then my second jump, we have a -8 times -1. Negative times a negative is positive, and then 8 times 1 is 8. Okay, so we've got -8x plus 8 so far. I'm going to fix that plus sign. And then we're just going to copy down everything else. Minus x less than or equal to 28. Okay. My next step, if you're looking at number 2, first we did distribute, then we did combine like terms. Can we combine like terms with number 4? Is there anything that we can combine in number 4? Can I do the combine like terms? Yes, we can. Let's go ahead and combine our x variables. I'm going to zoom in so we can see better here. You can circle your terms, a -8x, and circle this -x. If it helps, put your invisible 1 right there. So we're really combining -8x, and then it's -1x. You can really only just focus on the numbers, -8 minus 1. And what is -8 minus 1? Oops, I see here you said it's the -28. There you go. I fixed that. Thank you for letting me know. Yep, so then we get a negative 9x when we combine like terms, so negative 9x. Then I also fixed this. I turned that into a negative there. That's a good catch. Thanks for letting me know. So let's go ahead and copy down the rest. I'm going to bring down that plus 8, my sign, and the negative 28. Okay, let's zoom back out. Whoops. What's the next thing I should do here for solving number 4? It's either adding or subtracting. For number 2, we added. So you could say for that third step, it can be add or subtract for that third step. So for here, this next one, you can add or subtract. Our goal is we want to get rid of the number that says plus a number or minus a number. And for number 4, we're going to next get rid of this, the plus 8 right here. We need to get rid of that. So we're going to do the opposite to get rid of it. So this one, we're actually going to subtract. We'll do the opposite of plus, which is minus 8 on both sides. So those cancel out. Bring down the negative 9x, the inequality sign. And then we have a negative 28 minus 8 is negative 36. They're the same sign, so add those numbers together and keep the sign. I'm going to zoom back out here so we can look at number 2 again to figure out that last step. Okay, so for that third step here, it was add or subtract. So that means this last step here, number 4, it's divide or multiply. What should I do for my last step for number 4? Am I going to multiply or divide by what number? Divide, you said by 9. Awesome, let's go ahead and check. We can read that as negative 9 times x. So we're going to do the opposite, divide by negative 9. You're going to make sure you divide by that number that's in front of the x. That whole entire thing is a negative 9. So let's divide by negative 9 on both sides. So these cancel out. Here's my variable x. In your golden rule, remember to flip your sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Should I flip my sign here? Yes, we should. So I'm going to write flip to help me see it really easy. Flip my sign so it's facing the other way. Then finish your division. We've got negative 36 divided by negative 9. Negative divided by negative is positive. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So there's our final answer. X is greater than or equal to 4. Let's go ahead and graph it on our number line here. Remember, we are not doing interval notation. So here's the 4 right there in the middle. I don't need the numbers before or after. I know you know how to build a number line. Don't worry about that. So then our symbol, it's the greater than or equal to. We have extra ink for the sign, so I need extra ink for the dot. Should I have an open or closed circle? What kind of dot am I going to do? Closed, perfect. We got extra ink for the sign, extra ink for the dot. And then which way should I shade? To the left or to the right? I put L and R on there in case you guys don't know your left and rights. Which way should I shade? To the left or to the right? Now where you can turn that sign into an arrow. For this one, it's pointing to the right. I see you typed in right. That's correct. Go ahead and shade everything in to the right, nice and bold on your number line like this, or you can go up and over. And then that is it for number 4. Remember, if you have any questions, need me to slow down, type something in the chat, turn your microphone on, let me know. Otherwise, I will just continue. So there was 2 pages. We just did numbers 2 and 4. Let's keep going. Number 6, next one, because I'm doing just the even numbers. Next one's number 6. So this one's going to be, a little bit different from numbers 2 and 4 because we don't have any parentheses. But what we do have here with number 6 is we actually have a variable on both sides of our inequality symbol. So this was with your old teacher, Miss McCarthy, before I joined with you guys in January. This is when you guys covered this topic. So this is solving what you guys did in the past is solving equations with variables on both sides. Again, this is very similar. It's just solving inequalities with the variable on both sides. We've got the 2x on the left, and we have that 5x on the right. Our goal for inequalities, you always want to end up with the variable on the left, your sign, and then your number. So let's go ahead and move the 5x, this one here, over to the other side, okay? So when you move something to the other side, you do the opposite operation. Okay, let's look at this 5x. I'll zoom in here. This 5x is positive, so I put my little plus sign in front so I can see that, okay? So in order to move it to the other side, you're going to ask yourself, what's the opposite of positive 5x? Well, we know that is negative 5x or minus 5x. Okay, so if I do minus 5x on one side, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So we need to also put a minus 5x on the other side. And I'm going to line it up under the term that it matches up with under the 2x. And let's go ahead and simplify. These 5x's cancel out. Now over here on the left, we have a 2x minus 5x. Just focus on the numbers. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. And then just bring down the x. And then most part, you're just going to copy down the rest. Minus 1, your inequality sign, and bring down that positive 20. Now this looks a little bit more doable. We only have 2 more steps here. What should I do next? You can tell me what number I'm going to get rid of, or tell me if I'm going to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Let's see, I see some typing. Get rid of the negative 1. Perfect. So in order to get rid of that negative 1, we're going to do the opposite of negative 1, which is positive 1, or add 1 to both sides. So these cancel out. Bring down the negative 3x. My inequality sign, 20 plus 1 is 21. One more step here. I'm going to get rid of that negative 3. How can I get rid of that negative 3? Do what to both sides? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And I see some typing. Divide. Perfect. We're going to divide by the number that's in front of x, which is a negative 3. Divide by negative 3. Those cancel out. Here's my x. Your golden rule. Remember to flip your sign if you multiply or divide by what kind of number? Positive or negative? Flip your sign if you multiply or divide by what kind of number? Negative number. Okay, so we did that here. So I'm going to flip, since we're dividing by a negative number, flip my sign. And then our final answer, we have positive divided by negative, positive divided by negative. So I know my answer is negative. And then 21 divided by 3, or you can think the other way around, multiplication. 3 times what is 21? 3 times 7 is 21, and we've already got our sign there. So there's our final answer. All you got to do is graph it. I'm going to put our sign here so we can see it nice and big. So x is greater than or equal to negative 7. This does not look like the letter L, so it's the greater than symbol. The one that looks like the L is the less than or equal to symbol. So you're not doing interval notation. Here's my negative 7 in the middle. That's all that matters. Here's my sign. What kind of dot? Extra ink for the sign, extra ink for the dot, close dot on negative 7. I know you guys know how to do this. Turn it into an arrow. It's pointing to the right, so shade everything to the right. Nice and bold, nice and big so we can see. Or that up and over. And number 6 is all finished. Perfect. Let's keep on going. Number 8. Number 8, let's go ahead and zoom in here. See it nice and big. Number 8, first thing we want to do is get rid of the parentheses. This is going to be kind of like a combination of the first page and the last question we just did. Let's first get rid of the parentheses. How can I get rid of the parentheses? It starts with a D. What do I need to do to get rid of the parentheses? Distribute. Perfect. Let's go ahead and distribute this negative 3 to everything inside the parentheses. Once the parentheses ends, then you stop your distribution. You do not distribute anything outside of the parentheses. So let's do our first jump. We remember we're multiplying. -3 times x is -3x. And then we've got a -3 times +2. Negative times a positive is negative. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, my parentheses stopped. So I'm all done with my distributing. Copy down the rest. I'm going to bring down the -3x, my sign, 2x plus 18. We haven't even touched anything else over there, so just copy it down. Okay. If it helps, you can cover up the whole right side. Don't even look at it. Only look on the left side. So take your hand, take your finger, cover up the right side. And we're only going to look on the left side. Only looking at the left side of our inequality here, is there anything that we can combine? Can we combine like terms? I'm looking for like a yes or no answer. Can we combine like terms on the left side only? I see some typing. And yes, we can. Let's go ahead and combine our two terms here that are similar. They both have the variable x. So we're looking at a -3x and a -3x. You're really just looking at the numbers, -3 minus 3. So then we get a -6x. Same signs to add the numbers together and keep the negative sign. Okay, I'm going to erase that because that was just showing you that I was covering it up. I'm going to copy down the -6 since we haven't touched it yet. This one here, copy it down, -6. Bring down the inequality sign. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to cover up the left side. I'm covering up the left side. We're only going to look at the right side, the 2x plus 18. Is there anything on the right side that I can combine? Correct. The answer is no. The 2 has the variable x, the 18 does not, so there's nothing there that we can combine. Let's just copy it down exactly how we see it. 2x plus 18. Okay. So now this is going to be similar to number 6 at this step. We have a variable on both sides. Okay, we've got a x on the left and an x on the right. Remember our goal. Where do we want the variable located for our goal in order to graph it? Do you want it on the left or do you want it on the right? Where should the variable be located for your final answer, on the left or on the right? So for our final answer, your goal, you want to have the variable on the left side. So let's go back and look at like here, number 6. Your variable is on the left side. That was good. Number 4, variables on the left side. Perfect. That's our goal. Number 2, variables on the left side. Okay, so let's follow that same pattern. We want to get the variable ending on the left side for our goal. Let's zoom back in here. So with that in mind, that means I want to move the 2x to the other side. Since I don't want to have a variable on the right, I only want to have variables on the left side. Remember, this is left, this is right. So I'm going to move this 2x to the other side. Oh, okay, you're good. That's fine. I see your comment there. You thought that I meant the number. That's all right. So let's move this 2x to the other side. And when you're moving things to the other side, you use the opposite operation. Let's look at that 2x. Ask yourself, what kind of 2x is that? This one is a positive 2x. So I put my little plus sign there. And then we're going to do, what's the opposite of positive 2x? Negative 2x. Or you can say minus 2x on both sides. So these cancel out. And then start your combining, negative 6x and a negative 2x. They're the same sign. So add those numbers together. So we get 8 and keep the negative, bring down the variable, and then copy down everything else. Bring down the negative 6, the sign, and the positive 18. I just brought all these down. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Next is adding or subtracting. We need to get rid of the 6. Right now it says minus 6. So let's do the opposite of minus 6, which is plus, or add 6 to both sides. So these cancel out. Bring down the negative 8x. Your sign, 18 plus 6. We get a 24. One more step, we need to get rid of that -8. You read that as -8 times x, so let's do the opposite. Divide by the number in front of the variable, which is a -8. Divide by -8, so those cancel out. Here's my variable x. Should I flip my sign? Yes, we should, because your rule, remember to flip your sign if you multiply or divide by negative numbers. So I'm going to flip my sign so it's facing the other way. Positive 24 divided by -8. Positive divided by negative is negative. 24 divided by 8 is 3. Or you can think of multiplication. 8 times what is 24? Well, 8 times 3 is 24. So there's our final answer. I'm going to put our sign there. It's just the greater than symbol now, since it does not look like the letter L. We're not doing interval notation. Here's my -3. Here's my sign. Less ink for the sign, less ink for the dot, open dot on -3. Turn it into an arrow. So we're going to shade everything to the right. Make it nice and bold. Or you can go up and over. That was number 8. Yep. Let's keep on going. Last one here, number 10. Number 10. This one's similar to number 8, but we've got a little bit more that we have to do. Instead of doing a bunch of things on only the left side, we're going to have to do a couple of things also on the right side there, because we've got parentheses on both sides. So for number 10, we need to get rid of the parentheses here. So I'm going to take the number that's in front of the parentheses. And for this one, all you see is a negative sign. So if you don't see the number, we know that we have our invisible number, invisible 1. So there's actually an invisible 1 in front of the parentheses. Because we don't see it, we know it's an invisible 1. So let's distribute this -1 only to the things inside of the parentheses. And we're going to multiply. -1 times positive 3x. Negative times a positive is negative. 1 times 3 is 3. And then here's my variable x. That's my first jump. My second jump. -1 times positive 3. Negative times positive is negative. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, so that first set of distributing is done. Bring down the -2x and the inequality sign. Then we're going to look at the right side. We have another set of parentheses that we need to get rid of. I'm going to distribute this -4 only to the stuff inside of the parentheses. And we're multiplying. -4 times x, a number times a variable. You just put them next to each other. -4x. That's my first jump. Then my second jump. -4 times -2. Negative times a negative is positive. 4 times 2 is 8. Then I'm going to copy down that -2. Okay, since we don't distribute to the -2, it's outside of the parentheses, just copy it down. Okay, now we're going to cover up this right side. We're only going to look at the left side. We can see here that we can combine these two together, the -3x, and then make sure you circle the sign in front and the -2x, -3x and a -2x. So then we get a -5x. They're the same signs, they're both negative, so add the numbers together, 3 and 2, so we get 5, and then keep the negative sign. Bring down this -3, just copy it down, inequality sign. Okay, don't copy it on the right side yet. Cover up the left side with your hand or your finger, and then look at only the right side. Only looking at the right side. Is there anything that we can combine on the right side? Yes, we can. We can combine, our constants. That's our numbers with no variables. For this one, it's the +8 and the -2. So it's really just 8 minus 2, which is +6. So I put a little +6 there. I'm going to bring down this -4x since we haven't touched it yet. Okay, so I'm going to uncover this now. So now we're looking at everything all together. Okay, now let's look. We have a variable on both sides. Let's go ahead and set it up for our final answer, our goal. Whoops, goal. Where do we want the variable located for our final answer? On the left or on the right? And we want to have our final answer on the left, or our final variable on the left. So let's go ahead and move this negative 4x to the other side. What should I do to move the negative 4x to the other side? What should I do to both sides? Add or subtract 4x to both sides? Should I add or subtract 4x to both sides? I'm going to see some typing. So you want to do the opposite. Yep. So I see you said add. Ask yourself, what does it say right now? Right now it says it's a negative 4x. So you're going to just do the opposite of negative, which is positive. We're adding. Positive and add, it's pretty much the same thing. So you're adding 4x. Since we're doing the opposite to both sides, add 4x. So these cancel out because they're opposites. Let's go ahead and start combining here. Negative 5x and a plus 4x. They're different signs, so we can subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Keep the sign of the larger number, so it's a negative 1x. Bring down the minus 3, an equality sign, and positive 6. Oops. Next is adding or subtracting. We're going to get rid of that 3. Right now it says minus 3, so let's do the opposite. Add 3 to both sides. So this cancels out. Bring down the negative 1x, an equality sign, and then we've got a 6 plus 3 is 9. One more step. What should I multiply or divide by on both sides? What should I do for my very last step? Do what to both sides? Yep, we're going to divide by the number in front of x because you read that as negative 1 times x. So divide by negative 1 on both sides. So here's my x. And your golden rule, that's letting you know if you flip your sign or not. Make sure you flip your sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number. This one here, we're dividing by a negative 1. So we flip our sign the other way. And then we've got our last set of division. Positive divided by a negative is negative. 9 divided by 1 is 9. So x is less than negative 9. Here's my symbol. Kind of looks like the letter L. So it's the less than symbol. And then let's graph it. This is what you guys are good at. We're not doing interval notation. Here's my negative 9. Here's my sign. Lessing for the sign, lessing for the dot. So open dot on negative 9. Turn it into an arrow. It's pointing to the left. So we shade everything to the left. Nice and bold, nice and big so we can see. Or up and over. And then that is it. So what I did here with our notes, I only went through the even numbers and did those with you guys. On Schoology, I actually have the odd numbers posted on there as well. With every single step. So if you wanted to get some extra practice in before the assignment on Thursday, you can check every single step as you're going through. So if you feel like you still are struggling with this topic and you want more help, practice it on your own, check it on Schoology, or you can send me a message and I can work with you one-on-one. That is pretty much it for the assignment for today, just our notes. You're working on Alex tomorrow, so there's no meeting tomorrow. And then Thursday, we'll have our actual assignment on the same topic here that we just did today, okay? So if you have no questions for me and you feel good about this, you can go ahead and log off and you're all finished for today. But if you think you're struggling, you want some help, practice more problems, send me a message and I can work with you, or you can ask me questions here. But that is it for today. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys again on Thursday.